Hi everyone, it's Margaret with Creative Stamping with Margaret. Thanks for joining me. Today's card is one of the cards from our July 2024 card class where we focused on flowers and blooms. This set is from the Unbounded Beauty Product Suite. So I'm using, of course, that gorgeous designer series paper. I'm also using the Flowers of Beauty dies to give us the die cut, and then of course the sentiment and the other cut piece is from the let's see, what is that called? Unbounded Love dies. So that's Unbounded Love stamp set, and the Unbounded Love dies. That's a mouthful. Excuse me. Let me clear my throat there. And then, of course, we're using the dies to cut the flowers and add the embellishment to the front. I am using the stamps, the outline stamp, and then the little interior. It's a two-step stamp. Of course, you could use them individually, and that is also from the Flowers of Beauty stamp set. And the sentiment comes from the Unbounded Love photopolymer stamp set. All of these products, except for the embossing folder and of course the ribbon and the embellishments, are part of the Unbounded Beauty suite of products. Those are in the annual catalog on pages 54 and 55. But this Unbounded Love stamp set is full of different sentiments. And I pulled out Celebrate to use because that says so many things. You can use it for a wedding, a birthday, graduation. You can just stamp whatever you want on the inside, or just use it to write the appropriate greeting. Of course, you can always change this out. If you ordered a kit to go for this month's class, all of the die cuts and the texture embossing have already been done for you. So let's pull this to the side. In the description of the video, you will find all of the materials as well as the cut dimensions that are needed to complete this project. So we're starting with our Summer Splash cardstock base, and then we have our layering panel for the front of the card. There are two basic white. One is your interior piece, and then of course for the front. And then we have our Petunia Pop, which we are going to texture emboss this layer with the Eyelet 3D embossing folder. And that's how you would slide that in and run that through your embossing machine. To save time, I have already completed that step. So we're going to use a liquid adhesive, or you will need a strong adhesive, and I like to use the liquid adhesive. Of course, you could use the tape, one of the tape runners, but because this is heavily texture embossed, you want to make sure that you get a good strong adhesive on there. So all we're going to do is layer those two pieces together. We'll add that to the front. We also have a piece of the Unbounded Beauty Designer Series paper. I'm going to add that to the layer before I put it on. And I noticed when you texture emboss, sometimes that does change the length of the paper. So I'm going to grab my trimmer And I'm just going to take off, it looks like just not even 1/8 of an inch. So I'm just going to go just right on this line here where the cutting blade goes, and just that tiny little bit off. That's all it took, was just that little bit. And I'm placing this so that it is about 1/4 of an inch from the side on the left side, so it's not centered on the card. You could center it if you wanted though, but I think it gives it a little bit more interest when it's off to the side. And I had a little excess glue there, so I'm going to pull in my gum eraser now that that's dried and pull that off. Take the center panel out. We will stamp on it, but we can go ahead and attach all of our card front layers to the front of the card base. And you'll notice I pulled the colors that we're using from that designer series paper. So let me just get this on, get that all, make sure I have it squared up, and it looks like I do. If you do not own a gum eraser, I highly recommend you get one. They are great for removing a little bit of excess adhesive, whether it's liquid adhesive or your tape runner. But if you get it like I did, where I had a little too much up there, and I have several of these, and I've cut one in half just for little areas. So there, now it's repaired. So let's do our stamping. Now, of course, the other thing we're going to want to do is we're going to take our dies. We are using the Flowers of Beauty die. You will use to die cut a piece of basic white, and I actually have a strip here that I used, and I also at the same time am using the Unbounded Beauty die to cut the sentiment. I was able to get both of these on the paper as such at the same time. I ran that through the die cutting machine and have the label as well as that piece that was cut, the white. So we will go ahead and add that to the front, and I'm just adding a drop or two along the wider areas. I'm not gluing all of it. I wanted it to be lifted in some areas, just enough to get it to stay on the front. But as you see on my sample card, you can just sort of lift those edges, and I just thought that gave it a nice look. I am going to just move it a little bit more in the center of that cardstock area, or the designer series paper. So now we're going to pull in our Summer Splash ink pad and our sentiment. Now I have a little of that adhesive on my fingers, so everything wants to stick that I touch. And we're also using strips of the Pretty in Pink and the Petunia Pop. And we're using the 2 dies from the Flowers of Beauty. There's one that has the smaller flowers, one with the larger. And the nice thing is you just layer these onto your strips and you cut 6 flowers. There are 6, 1, 2, 3, actually 8 flowers on there. We're only going to use 3, but you'll lay those on, run those through your die cutting machine, and you will have all of the flowers. As I said, we're only going to use 3. If you wanted, instead of stamping the inside, you could also just use some of these extra ones to put on the inside of your card. Just layer them up and place them in. And then I'm just laying this just with a touch of glue. Did y'all see me just stick my thumb in that? Now I have glue on the side of my thumb. I had too much adhesive there. So what I'm going to do is, the nice thing about having extra ones, well, actually that's going to be fine. Well, the more I move it, it's going to play around. Let me just straighten this up. I should have pulled my tweezers to hold it while I was gluing them. But I think I'm going to do another one because that's going to have a lot of shine from the glue. It'll be a little bit sticky. So let's see if I can do that with a little less adhesive. They must have been thinking of me when they designed. Look at that. I keep picking that up with my fingers. Thinking of me when they designed this set, knowing they would have someone that would need extra wands to work with. Maybe I should have used a glue dot on that one, since I seem to be just going all over the place with it. There we go. While those dry, we can go ahead and add our sentiment to the front. And I am using dimensionals for the sentiment. And let me move our flowers now. And I'm placing it, as you see on our sample card, I am overlapping it so it's more toward the right. And now we can add our, and what I'm going to do is just add a drop of glue right where I want to add those flowers. As I said, you could use a glue dot if you wanted. That would hold them in place as well. And for the center of the flowers, we are using the In Color Shimmer gems, and I'm using the lighter pink. You could also use the little bit darker pink. Actually, on this one, I think I'm going to add the darker pink, even though on my sample card, I did use the lighter pink. You could also use the embellishments that come with the product suite. They are more of a matted embellishment, and I wanted a little bit of shine on and shimmer on this card, so that's why I selected these shimmer gems, which have been very popular item because they have gone out of stock several times, and we've had to wait till they come back in stock. And me and glue today are not getting along. I seem to have gotten extra glue on our sentiment, but I'll let that dry and take it off. Let me move this one out of the way. And now we're going to pull in. We're using the sheer ribbon, and I've used the sheer ribbon to tie our bow, and we're going to use a glue dot, which is probably a safer thing the way I've been with the liquid glue. So we will attach that in the corner. And I'm going to let that adhesive dry before I try taking it off. So while that's drying, let's pull in the card for the center. And I'm using Petunia Pop and Pretty in Pink to stamp our flowers in the corner. And I did one in each corner. You can also stamp them on your envelope. Now for the outline. And if you'll notice, there are some openings on the flowers that we have. One here that has a larger opening, and that's the one that matches up with the largest opening of the interior portion of that stamp. I'm going to have to pull this. It may be out of camera, but just so I can see. I may be off a little, but it's okay. That worked. That one was off a little bit more, but that's quite all right. I'm going to put it up at the top. Close these inks. And we'll add this, and so that will be for the inside of your card. You can stamp whatever desired sentiment you wanted, as I mentioned earlier, or just leave it plain. I know I like to just leave the card as is, not even attach this, and keep it back so that when I need a card that's a congratulatory card or a celebration card or a birthday card, I do it for a variety of my cards, then all I have to do is pull it out and decide what stamp I want to use. This is Margaret Knight with Creative Stamping with Margaret. I hope that you've enjoyed this project using the Unbounded Beauty Product Suites. If you would take a moment and subscribe to my channel, And be sure to look in the description of this video. You'll find the full list of products that we've used, as well as the cut dimensions and etc. Have a great rest of your day.